Radio Mann, Radio Mann, Badi Ansarion Mabalakabe.
Giaull Jew, Giaull J as Giaull Claire.
Liegden Gael Tyach Desh Claare na Gaels, Bavali MHUILICH oidhche. My name is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert the Carslach.
Have I heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
And it's my pleasure to present this bilingual programme in the English language as chialg and in the Manx Gaelic, Chinnamera, the mother tongue of EILEIN Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Barach and Jurish, well, we've been hearing about the herring trade with the fishery itself and then the subsequent export of both herring, red herring and white herring, and what a great period of activity it was in the island in the 1790s. Tun Dr John Seward ang Tyach Richard EILEIN a chaneiskriwte ach recorded. Take read the Jaach and Olive van Helsing as Exeter as the Rene Tannacht and the Senfoot na he as unservalia shen ve chit quail mina harker as a dunya shesha Jonathan. A great trade in Cornwall from the 1740s was kaolin or China clay, which is the basis of this song Clay Ports, performed by BRENDA WOOTTON, AUSTELL Band and the TREVERVA male voice choir. Tashu geistach rish Radio Vanning, Stashu the Nashun, Biskuller Skeliamach by Dulish, EILEIN Vanning.
Ships from Foy and Par and Charleston from their harbours put to sea, laden low with clay from Cornwall. All over the world shall they sail, where shall they sail?
A song written by Richard Gendel, one of 8, forming a song cycle called King Caolin, and Clay Ports was performed by BRENDA WOOTTON, the AUSTELL Band and the TREVERVA Male Voice Choir. David Robertson has mentioned other items exported from this island. Just to recap, he says, besides the herring trade, the island exports some quantities of grain, cattle, butter, bacon, lead, kelp, coarse linen and spun cotton. Well, you may recall when we were looking at the Reverend Thomas Stevens' poetical guide to the Isle of Man, although that was written some 40 years after David Robertson's tour, that's made mention as well of the spun cotton manufactory set up in a mill in Ballasalla by Abraham de la Prime, came over from Lancashire, and that mill was downstream from Rushen Abbey, and it was a water mill driven by the Silver River. But, says Robertson, notwithstanding the amount of these and the annual influx of wealth from the fishery, the balance of trade is against the island, and should the fishery considerably decline from the present languishing state of manufactures and the too great neglect of agriculture, this country would be almost ruined. Jew henke back, as any bunnes limmesjacks a chamber eg mus leeuwer lug quager a clag, as high a Westminster Gazette by raoir, stjach ons malau. Great house munion J. Shen, vrije house jasse ash, as any file ge rai a gelia. Ich me herrische febers on de veer gerau vissemer na bij cheter. Ach, gauw je warm as any kourige maag meer met geen peitjen wat golde brege soel ons Hampstead. Gerau ik kor monne vis douw, der henk me a rei as we kor kunte J. Lodden begge tjolich ons a skornach ook. Henk I douw, as jich me noes. Masaw, doort hij. She gorusen neg Lucy wach. As krei tau tiggle shen. Beg ach de wel enja kajen da wil you. Kreer be wel lotte ish, te lotte Hudson. Gerami tiggle a fregert ege de bollach. Sfeer shen de njau girach, a gene de girach. Krenach tau medel shen allu, vrij me. Our Irish band The High Kings sing the title track from their new album released only last week. This is the song called The Road Not Taken.
Pack my bags, I'm leaving town, on the road not taken, all the way from County Down, down to Conley Station, trying to make my mother proud in the world I'm facing. Just came in from County Down, on the road not taken. The Irish Sea, on the road not taken, looking for a job, you see, Ireland wouldn't take him, trying to make his mother proud in the world he's facing. Back in 1845, on the road not taken. '47 saw a drop in population. Now we stand and sing this song to mourn and celebrate them. Tell their stories, pass them down to all the generations. For someday you might find yourself on the road not taken.
The High Kings with the title track from their new album just released on the 23rd of June, The Road Not Taken. Van mi beg courage the inu veg gen immer getrom chushak ege, an hos on shen zolju, ta kierlein je fair sertnes, vaim ne gierfi trimshach, kuna de chok kriach ons pecher bi rish. Ach, tre honig me in edden ege, hug e kiel dau rish. Gerauwir you, hier ons mene droch rije zijn mechan Lucy bach, Jean de skromi. Instau, doort me, genot correber barrel, gesemmes erne de smunjen, as genel date bi joru de jenu shieldness. Wel shen de grede wel o ginstau mechare John, ne wel aure zed a sen hug Lucy gedden bes, genee lo gulju na fouwen courage dutch, genee joris tagerten, nach jorm pien. Ja glent neregach vergaarte, call moer de leier sul falle. As een acht van voel kalt ne erne leier sul, grij mi me gaan. Gauw ik kest met nol as haie schies jorm. Haie alle weer. She dunje achterlos me gare John, tau resune de mai, a stene te de giel. Ach, tau rauwer kleinich nai. Now Robertson continues, many circumstances unite to favour the establishment of manufactures and the further increase of agriculture in the island. The land is exempt from taxation. The necessaries and comforts of life are abundant. The country would supply several manufacturing materials, while for the greater part of the produce of the land and many of the manufactures there would be an immediate demand at home, and, for the residue, an easy conveyance from the central situation of the island to various markets abroad. Thus, the balance of trade which is now against the country would be in its favour, and a permanent fountain of wealth opened in its centre, which, from the influx of the fishery, would annually overflow. But this demands a spirit of enterprise and activity, hostile to the native indolence of the Manx, many of whom sacrifice every consideration to the pursuit of the fishery, and, when this terminates, retire to their clay-built cottages. And that's something that makes a very stirring combination, I always think. The sound of the church organ and the bombard. In this case, the bombard was being played by JEAN-CLAUDE JEGAT, and the organ was played by Louis YHEUL. And it was a piece which I only have the French title of, La Nuit descend, so it's possibly either from MHUILICH, the Higher Brittany, which is the east end of the country, or in fact it's maybe from the west, but they've translated the title into French here rather than kept it in Breton. Anyway, La Nuit descend is the French title of it, The Night Descends. JEAN-CLAUDE JEGAT and Louis YHEUL. Ashoon and Ashoon to Radio Vanning as and Shaw she Claare na Gael was colour scalia mach. Mish Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have I heard tell of our Bobby Bob?
To Claare na Gael reclashen was shachten luggy colour scalia mach a cheer Shaw gor a shimmer die Claare and Radio Vanning elia through the Gramman agert in the Degger Radio Vanning. As the Claare na Gael jint more podcast, vis regaden nasty in the Degger Radio Vanning, na through Keerderen podcast elia, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. And so, after the fishery, the herring fishery, the Manx people retire to their clay-built cottages, says Robertson, where, surrounded by a squalid and tattered family, they slumber out the residue of the year in sloth and misery. And he's got a footnote here too. The fishery commences in July and usually terminates with the autumnal equinox. Consequently, 9 months of the year are by many of the Manx passed in inactivity. Providence has given a liberal supply of the wealth of the sea to this island, and the acquisition of this during the season ought to be prosecuted with avidity. But the remainder of the year should not be consumed in indolence. A society for establishing manufactures and promoting a more general culture of the lands would in this country be a most benevolent institution. The Manxman would then be roused from his lethargy. He and his family amply participate of the comforts of life. The blessings of society increase, and although the fishery should decline, these new channels of wealth would remain unexhausted. Chanelul jigad en asulioned fagen na de gleischen klaschen. As chanel shen vis chaumui jen ve le oiled je scantier bidot. De velu smunien de vel ridden on de vodu tiggle, ach fo shen mortad. De vel chartans de lai fagen ridden de vod saelia fagen. Ach, de shan ridden no on as genaiden des sulien denia gian oru no de vel fissok, na de vel het smunien de vel fissok, chartans de ridden de denia elia ninchtau. Ah, sleshen sheen signed and foil, de vel de giri salje gemacht de gulju rid. As man a wel is salje gemacht, de greine vel weg on de huilje gemacht. Ach vorst as je vagen begiet de moon de gulju lei, de vel creduen no ges, de smunje oru hien de wei no, ach ne vel fors, ach ne shaan ridden, bis ligge oru de wei egg, gurish nem ren sere wujel leg an opera. Tammy shield nish ne velu krel ons mailar corp oil. Now this is a Scottish song called Hug me nich en raoir sunndach, also known as the Island Shealing Song, but with a tune collected in fact by Mona Douglas as well for an English version of the milking song, the Cerdavania, but in English from Robert Cruish of Kirkmichael. COISIR GHAIDHLIG and MHUILICH, the Gaelic choir of the island of Mull, and the island shieling song Hugminich and raoir sunndach. I gave a cheerful good night last night. Na wel? Na ons toe chit rish? Na wel? Na ons kurp rolegach? Na wel? Na ons ljai eidnichen? Na wel? Na ons hypnotism? Te door me te charcot en you prowlers jeshen my de lure. Renne munga gouds haie esh tau saige jeshen. Wel, as de duchesach esh de fisse der nach de gavrige, as tau able de eier der inchin charcot moor, straien de valley force on, stjach ons eer anem hornsach te genoer. Nu wel? Esh machara John, wel me de higgle na velo a saige janie, as de velo boeiach de liegelesh, by bon aigus en airtis, de wellig valmedon. De wel? Jinch thou, sons tu derne hinchen mish, en acht thou saige j hypnotism, as julde en jij einigen. Lieg thou inch Dutch machara, de vel ridden jint ju en sheens lektrach, weg brunes er jint jou maar aan gazerik, lorish na denie heen, ren getten maag mechonen lektrach. After David Robertson commenced chapter 15 about the herring fishery, looking down on the bustle in Douglas from Douglas Head, and to keep what he says about the herring fishery together, we actually jumped from the close of chapter 15 to chapter 17. So we'll go back to chapter 16 now, and the chapter heading tells us what it deals with. Sale of the island, view of trade previous and subsequent to that period, establishment of the customs, present imports, insular revenue. During the civil contests in England, occasioned by the weakness and ambition of Charles I, several persons of fortune, having sought an asylum in this island, introduced among the natives a greater flow of money. Previous to this period, their trade was chiefly transacted by an exchange of commodities, and their manner of conducting this business was not only beneficial to the community, but distinguished by its virtuous simplicity. Our Welsh harp player and singer Gwennan Gibbard produced a short album of songs exploring the links between Wales and Patagonia, and here she's joined by May Mac as they sing about the dawn.
Pan fyddai'r môr yn trymhau a helnynt gymylau yw ynys o wirioni yw mae gyr Albert i mi yn ôl y nos fy afanew o'r brad fy harbwr y diw. Hen o'r criwn ymgynnull i rannu gweld yn y gwyll, nid o'r grat yn neidiau'r gwres, nag o ynid yr Guinness, o'r fflamau i ffrindiau ffraf, yn odli a'i genhedlau. Heno nad yw minnau'n hanner call am amser cael, nid yr el o'r poteli yw naw fyd aniolwch ni, dawn cyffur o fragdir fron, alcoholiaid hwyl calon. Yma'n goel cerdd o chwerthin a'n gwenau fel hafau'r hun, yn Gymraeg mae'n morio hi, yn Gymraeg ymae'r rhegi a thrwy dath yr oriau di, ein heniaeth sy'n tywynu.
A vessel called the Mimosa carried Welsh settlers to Patagonia in 1865, and there are Welsh language schools in that area of Argentina still, and a Patagonian representative attends the Eisteddfod each year. And Gwenan Gibbard was joined by Meirion MacIntyre Hughes in Gwenan's song Gwaur Dawn. To prevent any avaricious monopoly, 4 merchants were annually elected by the people to purchase foreign merchandise for the whole country. These, on the arrival of any vessel laden with salt, pitch, iron, etc., etc., appeared with the owner of the cargo before the governor of the island, when the value of each article was ascertained. And to the contract then made by their commercial representatives, the country cheerfully acceded. The articles given in return were wool, hides, tallow, and other produce of the island, but if this proved inadequate to the cargo imported, the residue was then paid for in money by a general assessment. To a better acquaintance with the utility of specie, this primitive mode of commerce gradually yielded, and about the beginning of the present century, that's the 1700s, wholly disappeared. The increase of the customs and the establishment of the excise in the neighbouring kingdoms, uniting with other causes, afterwards proved highly beneficial to the trade of this country. Ver Utsen heen, gene ro fáder ro shen ve lásh má fir abi, tad a kinjach foljacht en sovjois. Cren fair rau Methuselah bio rish naichid blain, as shan far she feeders nai, ach na jai na dod Lucy bach, leis fúl as kier deni ons na kushlian bach dege, tanachten bio ir onlei. Son de bergi bei bio rish onlei elje, oidhche sin ver haweli. Wel fissed olju foliach je biois as bes. Wel fissed olju kujach ronsige kurpe soili as eblided de hit an oud wel duches na brauten ons chartans de genia as na welle ons firelja. But o instouw en oor, gaus de duoli en elje getten bes as utsen beg as egg, terwijl een onduoli moer shen bior is kieten de vlinten, ons toere gian-giel spijnach, as dese, dere tre henke noes, oidhche giu en oel as de chulju lampe en kilje. Fusi, the wedding reel played by Sheila Corkle on the fiddle, and Charles Gard had borrowed Bernard Kane's autoharp to provide a percussive accompaniment there.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Siodiw stasiwn yn asiwn y sian dy greid y dwchusach radio fanim. Se Claare na Gael fys verklaas yn cartnish, as mis de Chialg. Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Did the other hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
Odde gewinst daw yn oor ons na pampas, se als boelelje, ta kratnigen vis chitmaag son nie, as fasle kuslien en jallach as na kabel, as ta giaull chirm na kuslien ook. En acht ons kius de heljen en ons na moerigen hier, ta kratnigen vis krache schies feine bilgin feien lei, as otsen hoog schiljaar ook korkoente jou, maar kroin na finjegen voorach, as treed aan a schalteren, Claare luid, en ode wel tje, de wel het goelien noes orro as esch, zavora, tarregeden, denia maru, ben, hier maar van in a Lucy. Maar je allu doet me, as mish limme nies, wel u ginst out er au Lucy gremit jag liede gratniag, as de wel a lied on shore ons lunnings en naio hidu jeg, Renne Claare laus ontasted, as high air. Vodde winstau en oort en tortus tannacht en bjorisch na sorgen as she lag in de genie, en oort en elephant golair as golair derret as in een nagen slucht en rioiljau, as een oor na velle parad gedden bezig, vai grein ket na mode en vai doch en elie. The Isle of Man, says Robertson, thus became an important mart for those luxuries which the prodigality or policy of the state had loaded in Britain with oppressive imposts. Cambrics, silks, tobacco, tea, wines, spirituous liquors, etc., were imported from the continent. And a footnote here tells us that, according to the report of the commissioners in London, were annually imported into this island wine, brandy, etc. from France and Spain, rum and coffee from the British colonies, and East India goods from Denmark, Sweden, Holland, Hamburg and the Netherlands. And, his text now continues, on their being landed here, paid a very trifling duty to the Lord. And there's another footnote here as well. Trifling as the insular duties were, the Lord was frequently defrauded of them. Notwithstanding this, they produced from 1754 to 1764 about £6,000 annually. And that he repeats in his text then. But such were the quantities admitted that they formed an ample revenue to him. Now a band that came together in North Cornwall, the Grenaways, sing about a little boat, Scath Vichan.
Trials of the caress, gan cos gans al hon a verse, ni ara capos for dread on no.
Scath Vichan, a small boat, and that was the band, as I say, they came together in North Cornwall, and I think they've represented Cornwall at the Pan-Celtic Festival in Ireland from time to time. That was the Grenaways. Merchants from various countries flourished in every town of the island, which, from its vicinity to the surrounding kingdoms, and the plenitude of unexcised luxuries, was much resorted to by various hordes of smugglers. Besides foreign adventurers, several of the inhabitants were actually engaged in this illicit commerce. An unlimited importation of goods was legal, but every exportation of them was in defiance of the laws of the land, which at that time were shamefully evaded. This traffic was certainly injurious to the island, yet many of the natives still look back with regret to that period. Individuals were certainly enriched thereby, but the body of the people were impoverished. The lands lay uncultivated. The fisheries were in a great measure neglected. The morals of the people debauched. Another evil attending this clandestine trade, it affected the revenue of Britain and Ireland to that degree that it demanded the attention of the British legislature. Well, there speaks a British revenue man, of course. Fod y winch daw yn naw yn or dy fel deinia crel ons dy chwilio ling as ons dy chwilio fôl, dy fel siartans dy reger yn dy lai ta tanacht yn bio dy brech, ma fys ei ligit daw. Yn or dy fel deinia as mren on, na fod gedyn bes. Dy fys ein ulio y fer dy siens eich o barant son na ni, dy fel toden, fei dunstjach ons klaag yn rish tausen yn dy vlinten, dunt ons untol beg nach dod ach kummele near his ege de tail. For the winchdow and acht for the fakir and India, corersen getting bes as they own look it, as an eye egg as seal it, as arrow currit jorry, as an arrow bunch as garret as currit as bunch as garret rish, as esh the dania chit, as corlesher soul as seal now vrish, as the well fakir and India and a lion shen gin ve marrow. Ach de belly giri as shul na maastok, morene rai. On show ren mi brisje stjagersen, da mi chit de bij voor de gilje. Renne ploege ma eigne chwish les je rolege je ridden kwek en nejuur, as ridden na raure jinu, voor jinu, de rauwe shilten as em chit de bij voor dit. Now, Ava, A-V-A, is the name under which Irish singer Ava McMahon performs. Now, Ava is actually spelled E for the A-B-H-A. Well, here she sings Briseog Nawalia.
Is Briseog Nawalia studag mochri kruidje skart in jaren wes 3 jaar te lang mori tan de kete faring leder dan United is God of the brave heart, Eddie Royal Atmosphere, Neil near P.S. Nan Yalos Kyanantale Noble Buena Norne Visek Faser Andri O
is buchel das sag me that's real more for so sleep on the what be me mother vai Irish traditional song Chialg Nawalje, performed by Eva McMahon. For ein jou wachtelem der rau I ginsach het au lessoen enjach, maar any for there, the hennes a chamber studere zeggen ons Amsterdam. Ach, het rei shen, jinnach e instau en onrid, de berg smunjen er nie shen ons mahaig nie olju en trei. Ach, nish, van mi gin de groene shen, ach, van mi giri tickle. Accordingly, says Robertson, in the reign of George I, and a helpful footnote tells us March the 7th, 1765, an Act of Parliament was passed, purporting that as the commerce of man was injurious to the interests of His Majesty's dominions, a pecuniary compensation should be granted to the Lord, and the feudal sovereignty of the Isle be in future annexed to the British Crown. Well, Sinead here, show in just a few minutes. Chris Pearson will be here to present 2 hours of your Sunday chill out through to 9 o'clock, when in fact we welcome Rhiann Evans this week for Sundown. We are closing with music from Brittany, played by the band, by the Lorient singer and trumpeter, in fact, Johan Kam, with the Bagad Pen Abad, with a piece called Ar Vosen. Cheerfully enough, that's Breton for the plague. Now this year, I shall remind you of this again, the Bunskol Gilgach's musical presentation, always worth looking out for, is Ljóran Dúfur, the Jungle Book in Manx, and it's going to be presented for 2 nights in the Centenary Centre in Peel on the 13th and 14th of July. So it's a great chance for lots of people to go along and enjoy that, and tickets are available now online from the Centenary website, Centenary Centre website, £5 for adults, £3 for youngsters under 16. Achten treis energit as my so. Until the next time then, this is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert Carslag.
Oh, Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve, I'm a creeru, as orcherier, as my yeary and shed you will you.